Hey, so I made this recording when I had a really bad cold and I had a bad cough. So I didn't record any audio with it. So I'm going to see if I can do a little voiceover to go with it. It's hard for me to really know what I'm doing when I'm not doing it, but I'm going to do my best. So the drawing is speeded up a little bit, and I'm just trying to kind of get everything going at once. And when you have something like a bowl of fruit, it doesn't work very well to draw the fruit and then draw the bowl, or draw the bowl and then draw the fruit. It works much better to work together on those things and let the bowl help you figure out where the fruit is and the fruit help you figure out where the bowl is. So I kind of worked all around, and now I'm just going back and trying to place things a little more accurately. And another thing, like what it looks like right now, is that I've got stuff going all the way around. So, but what works better is to work from one side over to the other. So that's what I'm doing now. If you try to work from the two outside edges to the middle, there's a really good chance that things won't meet up in the middle like they're supposed to. And I'm putting in the shadows and the shadows on the objects, the cast shadows anyway, and then the shadows that are down in between the objects, and that helps me to see another shape, shape that I can draw, and things like putting in the little button on that one fruit. Those just help me keep my place, and I'm kind of softening the charcoal as I go because I don't need it to be so heavy. And I think I'm working on that LaCarte, Sennilier LaCarte paper. Sometimes it's hard for me to see how big or small things need to be when there's just an outline. So it's easier for me to see the spaces and the shapes when I put in the shadows, because then things start to have volume and it starts to make kind of more drawing sense for me. And then putting in those little leaves just to kind of has helped me keep my place where I'm at here. And all the time I'm looking at the spaces between the fruit and the edge of the plate. I'm trying to get that right. Yeah, and I tried to use my chamois, but the paper kind of tears off little fuzzy bits, so that's why a chamois doesn't work very well on sanded paper. And I am drawing with the soft bind charcoal because pastels will easily cover it up, and I can sort of knock it off just with the back of my hand if I get things in the wrong place. And here I was a little reckless. I'm pretty sure this part of the drawing is speeded up, although I can't honestly exactly remember if that's true. And now I'm trying to put in those little lights. Okay, so I'm ready to start my color, and I'm going to start with the lightest light, which I decided was the rim of that bowl. And I thought it looked a little bit blue, so I started at blue, and now I'm just going to go over it with white. And then the other side of the bowl, I'm going to start with the blue but not go over it with the white. It's some kind of dark purple I'm using for the shadow on the table. And I think I probably didn't do the light side of the table just because I thought I should see what I'm going to do with my fruit, since there's so many of those. Like I might have accidentally started those light parts of the table too bright to be able to make the different fruits. And even though things are, each one is subtly different from the other, I'm just starting them the same. Just because otherwise it would just be too many colors I would have going too quickly if I started every single thing with something different. So I'm making a big generalized statement, and then I'm going to refine it and make the variations later. You know, you don't have to do it this way. You could choose to make every single one of those fruits a different color, but it just seems too hard to me. And sometimes it's nice to do, you know, like big areas like that shadow. I'm going to start it all the same. So by doing it right away, I'm covering a lot of the paper up. Especially when I'm using that red paper, the burnt sienna paper, it helps me a lot to get it covered kind of quickly because it influences everything so much, that red. With a neutral color like this, it's not so important. And sometimes I decide to do things in an order, it's an order that I do it in an order of like, oh, I know what to do here, so I'll just go ahead and do that. And put off maybe some of these things that I'm not so sure about. I am sorry, I don't know what color that is, because that's a pretty good color for starting all these dark red things. And that highlight, that's another really light place, so getting that in there helps me to know if I've got the colors around it dark enough. And there, even though I started that with that same orange, I came back right away with another color to change it from the yellow fruits, the apricots. And red is a tricky color in pastel, so if you're going to use red, you kind of need to use it right away, because it's a very hard color physically, and it's hard to get it to go on top of other colors. And then, you know, when I have these green things that are surrounded by these orange and red things, I can't very well start the green things orange because they don't look orange compared to the other orange things. So everything's getting started with a little more local color than I normally like to use. That's some softer pastel. That's not a Rembrandt. So basically, I'm just trying to get something everywhere. And look at that, I used the exact same colors I used on those fruits for that table. I just knew I was going to do that. I hope I make it better. Nope, just left it right like that. Okay, but you see how I started almost every color that had a pattern of light and dark. I started it with a set of colors for the light and a set of colors for the dark. I always do that right from the start. I don't average the lights and the darks together. They're just too different to be averaged. One is the absence of light and the other is light. So if I think that you should start them right away with one color for the light, one color for the shadow, and I set up my still lifes and whatever I'm doing so that I have strong light and shadow coming, like in this case, coming from the side. Because for one thing, that makes it much easier to create form when you're showing the change from light to dark. It's much harder to make form if your objects are lined up with the light. So if the light is right behind you, coming forward, and you don't really see light and shadow, it makes it much harder to create form. So things are not just green, light green and dark green. When the light shines on them, they're one set of colors that make the light green, and then on the shadow side there are another set of colors that make the shadow. And if you're having trouble with that, you can force yourself to not let yourself use anything in the shadows that you're using in the light. I don't do that, but I have done it when I was having a hard time making contrast. And that particular peach, I am exaggerating the contrast, I'd say, between the light side and the shadow side. Then another thing that adds to the complication is some of these fruits have different colors. Like that fruit that I'm working on right there, it really literally is a different color in the shadow than it is in the light. So when you're setting things up, if you can try to have things set up so that the dark side of the object is on the shadow side and the light side of the object is on the light side, that makes it a lot easier. When you have it reversed, where you have the lightest part of the object in the shadow, it can be kind of hard to actually show that there is a shadow. See, I noticed some drawing mistakes now, so I'm kind of drawing with my shadow right now. I don't know if I'm going to be able to really actually fix that. So it's interesting to have this format here where the photograph is about the same size as the setup and they're right next to each other. Some people actually paint like this. They have their painting right next to the setup, and that's called sight size. It's what John Singer Sargent did for his portraits. His big canvas would be right next to the model, and then he would back up and look at his canvas and the model at the same time. Instead of a lot of artists look at the canvas, look at the model, look at the canvas, look at the model. So he had his right next to each other so he can make a direct comparison. I have never worked like it looks like I'm working in this arrangement. I'm always looking from my canvas over to my setup. They're not ever right next to each other, but it's an interesting idea because it does seem like it's easier to see any drawing mistakes here, to see which things are slightly too small. And now I'm using a little bit of a pinkish white there. Thing is, once you go all the way to your real white, you kind of have nowhere left to go. So I usually try to put that off until after I've sprayed it once. And try to get all the colors I want to see in my white. Get those going before I add the actual white. And now I'm redrawing with charcoal. Although I still didn't get it right. The bottom right hand side, that circle is not quite right. And now I've got it all covered, so I'm going to come back and try to make each large area of color better. And I can start adding in a lighter side so that I've got light, half light, and shadow. So it would have been a good idea to put the highlight on that green apple just to see if I've gotten it too light now. Oh good, I saw that shadow. Put that in. You can see in this setup how much easier it is to see the cast shadows, which are the shadows thrown by one object onto another, as opposed to the just the shadows that are made because things turn away from the light. Now I'm trying to make that half light in the inside the bowl. Pastels are really good for those fuzzy fruits, aren't they? They're better for the fuzzy fruits than they are for those shiny fruits. But it's the highlights that'll make the shiny things look shiny. I guess I decided, I think I was, because I was sort of sickly, I think I got really tired just from doing this much. And probably thought, okay, I should come back and redraw, and then spray on another day, because I haven't actually come back to work on this again yet. You can see how I'm trying to make the roundness of the fruit out of a series of straight lines, because that gives it a lot more authority somehow, and it's actually more honest. It's more true that things that are natural are not perfect circles. And the other thing it does is it gives your eyes somewhere to focus along the line. It's hard to focus on just a curve. So by using a series of straights to make the curve, it helps your eye move around those objects. And I'm trying to pay attention to which things are actually in front and which things are underneath. Good, I'm so glad I made those bigger. Well, I didn't really make them bigger, but I wished I would. Should make that thing bigger too. Ugh. So in the beginning, what I'm doing is more of a gesture drawing, and now what I'm doing is a little more of a contour drawing, where I'm trying to really follow the edge around. But I just should notice I still don't get it all just exactly right. Good, but at least I made that better. I'm using my charcoal to put in that negative shape. Good, I made that better too. Very stressful to watch this, I'm just going to say. And see the mistakes I don't notice. A big one right there, that yellow fruit is not big enough. Yay, made that better too. Just add a little violet to it. Always works to send it down a little. And see, I'm using that same color quite a few places. I keep drawing that thing in, but then that green one, but then I don't add any color to it, to how I corrected the drawing. I just like forget or something. Come on, Jeneane. I did it again. I still didn't fill it in up there. All right, well, it's going to have to be next time, I guess, because this is almost the end. And that's the end. So I will work on it again.